Good morning, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in. Module number 12, Child Psychology. My name is Nadeem Sikander. We'll be looking at the emotional development. That's going to be the module that we will be discussing. So we'll be covering the definition, the school-age child, the adolescence, regulations of emotions, and we will also be looking at the how to assess and deal with the negative emotional development. So these are the 5 objectives. Along with the cognitive, physical, and social development, all children go through the stages of emotional development. A person's emotions are challenging to study and recognize, and when it comes to children, they do not always understand their own emotions and what it means. In the world of child psychology, the study of emotional development is a bit of a further behind the other types of development. This is the phenomena of 21st century, that the theories that started to come out as far as the emotions these theories begin to emerge as the emotions are being studied. This module will look into the development of emotions along with the factors that schooling plays in terms of the development. Emotional development can be defined as the emergence of child's expression, experience, understanding, and the regulation of their emotions from the time they are born through the adolescence. The study of emotional development also looks at how emotional processing occurs. This process does not occur on its own. However, instead, cognitive, behavior, and neural development interact with culture and social influence to create emotional development. There are several emotional developmental theories in existence, but there's generally a universal agreement among researchers that there are certain milestones the children should meet as they develop emotionally. So emotional and social developments are linked, and in some cases they are studied as one or as a pair. Parents, or those who provide care for the children, certainly play an important role in the development of their emotion, but so does the other people as the child's world begins to expand. The debate continues as to when actually emotions begin in children. For example, an infant might smile early in their lives, but it is more likely the smile is more of a reflex than a social and emotional interaction. Generally, a child might smile at about 6 weeks old, but may express emotions, but they will not smile in social way until the approximate age of 6 months old. Crying is a very powerful way of infants expressing their emotions and is often used to communicate. They communicate their emotions through crying. That could be distress, fear, anger, sadness, pain, several other emotions. By around 3 to 4 months old age, the child will begin laughing, which is a new way of expressing emotions. As you might remember from the previous module, by the time child reaches adulthood, they have started to develop their sense of self. They also begin developing new emotions such as shame and pride, thanks to the maturation of the frontal lobe and other areas of the brain. This also facilitates a new sense of independence in these children, and they will begin to they will begin to defy authority. When the child reaches the age of 2 or 3, they will begin showing the signs of empathy. That's 2 to 3 years of age, and which indicates that they can read emotional cues of others. Now, verbal skills also begin to develop around this time, and with these skills, children develop verbal reasoning. This means that start to talk about their feelings, which is something they have not been able to do before that. This continues into preschool, and they will verbalize emotions such as I am sad, I am mad, and so on and so forth. Preschoolers also begin to understand the rules that they have to be part of, the school rules, family rules, and even society in regards to their emotions. So they do understand that. They recognize non-verbal cues from each other. When they're working with one another, they begin to realize that too. And they can finally distinguish between negative and positive emotions, such as anger, fear, sadness, and happiness. And these children do have a sense of empathy. Though at this time, their empathy is very limited to the people that they know, like their family members, as the empathy is being used. Emotional development at the school age. As a child enters elementary school, they begin to gain more of the sense of self and realize how specific situation causes emotions. For example, a child who has been teased for showing that he or she is scared of something might feel shame next time if he or she gets scared. They understand the concept of mixed emotions. Research shows that by the time a child reaches the age of 6, they start to understand that people can experience one emotion and then a different emotion almost immediately following the first one. As these children continue to age, as they learn that there are rules for displaying emotion, these children will often also develop emotional coping skills, even if at a basic level. For instance, a child might be taught to avoid showing disappointment when they get a gift that they don't want. For example, a child might rationalize behaviors or situations to make them less upsetting. Emotional development as an adolescent. During adolescence, the emotions of a child are still developing. This period of child life is often most emotional period as far as their psychological development is concerned. Though adolescents will begin to be more independent, which is a good thing, they often feel more negative emotions during this time. So the researchers believe that this could be traced directly to cognitive development that is also happening during this time. For the first time in their lives, these children now can imagine theoretical and complex scenarios for their lives, especially when it comes to, for example, relationships, which may cause emotional distress. In turn, this causes the social problems to become more complex. So they look at their peers. Many times without realizing it, to see how they are handling similar situations. So at this age, they are going through a lot of the uphill of their emotional development. And what you kind of have to see it, that they're seeing someone else's life and trying to see how they are living their life, and that could cause distress. And then not only that, if you look at, because they're going to schools, the academic pressure, there are family struggles, there are family issues, there are new boundaries, new curfews, new orders from the parents, and their newfound of independence, right? That puts a lot of pressure as far as their emotions are concerned. Many of these young people feel that new emotions such as worthlessness and self-doubts are also increased. They also realize that the first time that their emotions are very different from the emotions of their parents, and that often causes the conflict. Regulation of emotions. So a major part of emotional regulation or emotional development of children is how they label, recognize, control their emotions. This is known to be emotional regulation. The self-regulation of child's emotions include both the recognition as well as the delineation of their emotions. Once a child begins to articulate one of their emotions, this is an action that has a regulatory effect. Children also learn which is important to regulate their emotions in certain situations. For example, they might control some negative emotions in the presence of an adult, or in the same situation, they might not do it because they're in the presence of their peers. By the age of 4, a child also learns how to alter the situation and express his or her own emotions to meet his own needs, basically altering the truth that is present just to benefit them. This is known to be the emotional display rules. By the time child is between the age of 7 and 11, they can better regulate emotions by using self-regulation skills. They also better understand other people as well, and they can adapt to their emotions. And in some cases, they can also manipulate some of that information in terms of specific relationships. For example, an older children might express negative emotions to their mothers rather than to their fathers, because they know that expressing those negative emotions to the fathers could have a adverse reaction that displays in their emotions. So the guidelines of their culture of, for instance, might govern how appropriate certain emotional expressions are in certain situations. So not everyone expresses one's emotions the same way. There are cultural advantages and disadvantages, of course. So obviously the culture plays an important role. So one thing for sure, which is the fact that emotional regulation identified as a child's ability to label, recognize, and control their actions, is a major part of the social development. So the emotional regulation, let's put it this way, is ties right into the social development, which is a major part of it. So emotions and schools. Research has shown that there is a strong link between emotions, emotional development, and the child and how they perform in school. There's nothing else to be said here, that there's a great link in the research that shows if the child is doing emotionally well, he will be doing academically well. If the child is not doing emotionally well, he will not be doing academically well. If not all of the cases, but most of the cases, this is the case. Of course, they need to have these verbal skills, communication skills. They need to know how to express themselves. They need to have the confidence and the competence to be able to come out and say that. And that's the job of educators and people at home, to make sure we help children learn to have more confidence and have self-worth, which is really important for them to come out of this bubble in which they are in. Assessing the development of emotions. By taking a preventive approach to challenging any negative behaviors caused by the emotions, many students can learn how to utilize different emotions and skills. When we say by taking a preventive approach, that could be taken by the adolescents, but that could be given by the teachers, the caregivers, and so on and so forth. So preventive approach can come from parents and educators to help children learn to deal with their emotions and how to utilize these emotions to benefit them, and that's a skill to learn. This can help to eliminate the behaviors that are not expected. Some children, however, might continue to display negative behaviors regardless of what you try. But the point is that there is a way to address the needs of children because they come from various different backgrounds. Although the behaviors that are emotionally related are usually obvious, it is important to to keep a track of the data that you gather and to make sure you have a plan to fix it, especially when, especially in the school setting. This is usually done by the school staff, the counselor, the psychologists, and sometimes the medical professionals. Assessing this behavior is essential. It is the first step to deciding which behavior are most challenging. For example, it is if the behavior is harmful for another child, or it's affecting child's learning, then immediately there's an assessment process which is necessary. And it is essential to get a detailed explanation from the people who care for these children at home, the parents, the staff, and so on and so forth. But once that is done, once you collected all that information, the formal assessment can take place and can be conducted. Formal interviews by the people can be conducted, and then the certain decisions can be made what to do next. I can tell you from my own experience that in our setting, when we receive an information that has to do with child's ability to learn or a misbehavior and so on and so forth, and there is a pretty regular occurrence in the child's behavior. The child continue to lack in performance. The child continue to fall behind in learning. He daydreams and can't pay attention, and then so on and so. So there's a series of actions that the child continue to project, and when you realize that as a teacher, once they do that, and then they actually did a informal meeting to bring forth the issues for further discussions. So that when the teacher gathers all that information, he reaches out to the building principal, who reaches out to the people that are more involved in child's life. So there is a proper formal assessment can take place, and oftentimes it gets to the special education department if need be, or the psychologist gets involved if need be. So you see, there's a process in which these things take place for the well-being of the child. So if the longer you wait, the more difficult it gets. So if the child is at elementary age, is displaying some of that, you begin to start the discussion so things can be managed well. After all of that work is being done, the formal evaluations and observations, and someone's helping, then after all this, experts might attempt to develop a hypothesis about the child's behavior patterns and suggest support plan with several steps. And finally, the plan can be implemented, though it will be evaluated on a regular basis and then can be modified if necessary. So see, this is how the plan work as far as the child's social emotional development, as well as some of their academic pieces too. So folks, this ends our module number 12, which is the emotional development. And I hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you on module number 13. Have a wonderful rest of the day. Thank you for watching.